Grand Canyon University, a Christian university, is one of the largest and fastest growing universities in the country, offering over 200 engaging programs online. Praised for its culture of community, students build meaningful professional relationships with faculty who become partners in your success. GCU's online students received over $100 million in scholarships in 2020. Visit gcu.edu/myoffer to see the scholarships you qualify for.
All in one app. Now back to Softy and Dick on your home for the Huskies and the Kraken. Seattle Sports Radio 950, KJR.
All right, we are back at Husky Stadium. Jimmy Lake Show debut of the 2021 version of the Jimmy Lake Coaches Show coming up at 6 p.m. tonight right here on 950 KJR. Waiting for the arrival of Michael Florio.
Softy is an idiot.
Thank you from ProFootballTalk.com, courtesy of Simply Seattle. We'll spend more time on this as the show goes by, but John Stanton finally today announcing Jerry Dipoto, Scott Thurvith extended by the Mariners today, and I think deserved by both guys.
I think so, and I'm wondering how long they were holding on that until they got a grand slam to win the game so they could announce it the day after.
Yeah, exactly. Or they could have announced it after the first grand slam against the Astros like
that was
a month ago.
Yeah, I don't think they had it done then.
All right, let's get to Mike Florio with us right now on KJR.
It's time for a weekly conversation with Pro Football Talk's Mike Florio. Brought to you by Simply Seattle. Tired of buying and repping the same old Seattle sports gear everyone else has? For the best Storm, Seahawks, Mariners, Kraken, Rainiers, Sounders, and not to mention the largest Sonics collection in the world, check out simplyseattle.com. Now with Mike Florio, here's Softy and Dick.
All right, boys and girls, here we go.
41 yards.
Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com, courtesy of SimplySeattle.com. Try their puck drop package on the website. You're a Kraken fan, it's $50. And by the way, it is a no freaking brainer at SimplySeattle.com. Here he is to talk about his love for fantasy football, our friend Mike Florio. How are you, pal? What's going on?
What's up, buttholes?
Not much. It's great to hear your voice.
It's regular season time. He's coming in with the buttholes.
Great
I like
to have you back in regular season mode, man. It's awesome to have you back on the air.
He's a genuine butthole.
Let me ask you about Urban Meyer and the Jaguars. Urban Meyer comes out and says, players getting cut because they're not vaxxed. Jaguars says, psych, nobody was cut because they weren't vaxxed, and the NFLPA is angry. How much trouble are the Jaguars and Urban Meyer really in about that comment a couple days ago?
Well, I think the NFLPA will find a way to let this go because the NFLPA has a direct role in the creation of what ultimately is a nonsensical rule. They did not want to make vaccines mandatory, so vaccines aren't mandatory, and as part of that, players cannot be cut for being unvaccinated. It can't be a factor in the decision to let someone go. However, the league and the union created a protocol that incentivizes vaccination, that disincentivizes keeping players who aren't vaccinated. There was a memo that came out on July 22 that said, hey, if you have an outbreak among unvaccinated players or staff that results in a game not being played, you will forfeit that game. That was the clearest sign yet that there's an incentive to get rid of the unvaccinated players. Now, the real incentive was convince as many of them as possible to get vaccinated, but when you get down to cutting the roster and you have two players, all things equal, one vaccinated, one not, of course you're going to get rid of the guy who isn't vaccinated. Meyer's sin in this regard was in being candid. It wasn't a matter of telling the truth or not telling the truth, because coaches lie all the time for strategic reasons. That's not a shock. But by telling the truth in this context, by being candid on that issue, he stepped in a pile of crap. And now the Jaguars have, I don't remember, and I don't know how old you guys are, but I remember when I was a kid, we had Keds, and they had very tight little ridges on the bottom, and you had to find a really thin stick to scrape that stuff out of your shoe. That's basically what the Jaguars are doing now.
So what would a potential punishment be for Urban Meyer and the Jaguars?
I don't know what it would be. I think they're going to find a way to look the other way, because if push comes to shove on this, the Jaguars will be able to say, this is ludicrous. You've incentivized making this a factor. You created these rules. And it may be enough, and they're trying to thread this needle to say it's not about vaccine status. We don't care if guys don't want to get vaccinated. However, when it's time to decide who's going to be on the team, availability is a factor. And Look, given the protocol, if you're being tested every single day, one positive test and you're gone 10 days, close contact with somebody who's infected, you're gone 5 days if you're not vaccinated. If you're vaccinated, you're not gone at all. It's a factor. How can it not be? So I think the union wishes that people would just not say anything.
Right.
And when Meyer said what he said, it put the union in a position where they had to do something. I predict that at the end of the day, nothing will happen because there's an acknowledgement at some level this is a stupid situation that the league and the union have created that puts coaches and teams in a spot where they're just tiptoeing through a minefield waiting to step wrong and blow their leg off.
Well, Bill Belichick says no, but do you think this played a factor in his decision to cut Cam Newton?
Absolutely. Look, 9 days ago, Cam Newton was the starter. How did he end up not being the starter? Well, what happened was he wasn't available. Why wasn't he available? Because he didn't understand the very simple rule that you have to be tested at the facility every single day. He went out of town. And look, I don't know exactly what happened because they're never going to tell anybody what happened because that's just how they are. But if you're going to go out of town on an overnight trip and you have to be vaccinated, or not vaccinated, but tested every day because you're not vaccinated, you get tested early, the morning of day one. You leave, you spend the night, you come back the next day, get tested before 11:59 p.m. local time, and you've been tested every day as long as it's at the facility. He screwed that up, and it established that you can't count on him. Think about what's coming in 32 days. October 3, Buccaneers at Patriots. Tom Brady back in town. Of all the stuff Bill Belichick's going to be worried about going into that game, do you think he wants to worry the night before when he goes to bed, hey, tomorrow morning, Cam Newton may test positive and not be available for this game, and we have to tear up the game plan and pivot to Mac Jones, our backup quarterback, and what a disruption that's going to be? Well, now you don't have that potential issue because Cam Newton opened the door to allow Mac Jones to be the starter. And I think once it was determined that Mac Jones was going to be the starter, Cam Newton, because of his personality, the following he has in the locker room, you can't keep him as the backup. You just have to move on because it would be disruptive if Mac Jones struggles and you have players on the team that start clamoring for Cam.
Tell me about Jones's readiness, because I'm a little bit taken aback by this. I'm looking at the Offensive Rookie of the Year award, and Mac Jones is actually the favorite ahead of Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, all of them. Do you agree with that order?
Well, that means the odds have moved even more than they did yesterday. Yesterday at PointsBet, he went from plus 800 to plus 450, but he was still behind Trevor Lawrence. Like, I think it's going to be a long year for the Jaguars, and I don't care who the quarterback is, it's going to be a long year. In New England, the team is better than it was last year. They have weapons, and I watched a lot of Mac Jones in the preseason. There's a very smooth and fluid way to his game, the way he moves. At Alabama, he looked clunky. He looked out of place. He looked like his uniform didn't fit. He looked like Bobby Lane had come back to play football in the modern day, and he just is. And we've seen the picture of him without a shirt on. It's not a pretty sight. But all of a sudden, he shows up playing for the Patriots. I said this today on PFT Live. It's like putting Michael Keaton in the Batman costume. Like all of a sudden, he's ripped and he's sleek, and he plays with a confidence that suggests, I know the offense. I know what I need to do. I know what reads to make. I know how far to drop. I know where to look. I know where to throw. And there is that rhythm that almost makes it look like you're watching Tom Brady, the way that he moves and the way that he makes decisions and the quiet confidence. He's authoritative with his throws. So he had the opening last week with Cam Newton out, and he did enough to convince Bill Belichick to not just bench Cam Newton, but to get rid of him altogether.
Mike Florio with us, courtesy of SimplySeattle.com. Where does Cam Newton play football, if at all, this year?
Well, the first thought that came to mind was Washington, but Ron Rivera made it clear that he's not interested. Ron Rivera had yet to come out and say Ryan Fitzpatrick is the starter. There's nothing like Cam Newton questions to get Ron Rivera to finally say Ryan Fitzpatrick is the starter. I think what he needs to do is wait for somebody to get injured, because you go into some scenario as a backup, and you have to go to a place where you are behind an entrenched starter, where there will never be an outbreak in the locker room of, hey, maybe this is the guy who should play. It's kind of like what Mike Vick dealt with when he got to the backup stage of his career. He'd been around for a while. A lot of guys on the team who grew up idolizing Mike Vick. They wanted to play with Mike Vick. It worked for Vick in a place like Pittsburgh where he was never going to be on the field, and it was never going to be an issue where the young players who had his poster and his jersey are going to want to be on the field with him. I think a similar thing happens with Cam Newton. I just think the best play is wait. Wait for an injury, and then wait for the phone to ring. Now, we'll see if the phone rings. I'm reminded of what always happened when Colin Kaepernick was mentioned for jobs when there were injuries, and teams always said, we're going to go next man up with the guy who knows the system. And maybe that'll happen to Cam Newton. I don't know. But you would think somebody's going to want him. You would think that there's going to be an opportunity. Two teams I'm intrigued by, the Saints because they don't have a veteran quarterback in that backup spot behind Jameis Winston like they had Teddy Bridgewater a couple of years ago and then Winston last year, so Taysom Hill could do his thing. And Sean Payton knows Cam Newton as well as anyone. He's dealt with him for most of the last decade. And then the Buccaneers. Wouldn't that be the ultimate middle finger to Bill Belichick for Tom Brady to bring Cam Newton with him on October the 3rd? And you don't know what's going to happen to Tom Brady. He gets injured, misses a couple of games. Do you want Blaine Gabbert or do you want Cam Newton to be the guy running that offense?
Yeah, well, neither are very appealing, but I'd take Cam Newton in that situation for sure. Mike, great stuff. We'll talk in a week. Bye.
Thank you.
See you guys.
See ya. Mike Florio, courtesy of SimplySeattle.com. He'll be with us every Wednesday at 3:30 during the football season, courtesy of our friends at SimplySeattle.com. Big news from the M's, and what we're about to talk about involves neither Kyle Seager or Jared Kelenic. Thank God. Next on 950 KJ.
There's never been a better time to switch to Spectrum Mobile. You could save hundreds of dollars on your mobile bill. Plus, there are no added taxes, hidden fees, and no contracts, all on the most reliable service. Click to try the Spectrum Mobile Savings Calculator. In 3 easy steps, you'll see how much you could save with Spectrum Mobile. Visit spectrummobile.com/save today. Spectrum Internet required. Savings may vary. Restrictions apply. Visit spectrummobile.com/save for details.